Welcome to Life Science Success Podcast. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Don, and I'm a consultant in life sciences. I help companies manage complexity and increase performance. Before we get into the interview today, I just wanted to mention, and I've mentioned this on previous shows, but I created an organizational maturity assessment. It's on my webpage, so if you go to 5280LSC for lifescienceconsulting.com, you'll see this maturity assessment, and essentially what it does is it ranks your organization and the level of scalability inside of the organization. And so I would encourage anybody that's interested to go and check that out on the webpage for 5280 Life Sciences. Today on the Life Science Success Podcast, my guest is Vadim Klyushnichenko. Vadim is the VP of Pharmaceutical Development at Scripps Research. He has over 25 years of progressive experience in global biopharmaceutical development from discovery, clinical, and commercial manufacturing. So with that, welcome, Vadim.
Yeah, thank you, Don, for inviting me to your podcast.
Yeah, it's great to have you here. And it's funny to me because my start in life sciences was one where I started working at GE Healthcare shortly before, I should say, the timing whenever they bought Amersham Pharmacia. And so we had a lot of stuff that did, the clinical manufacturing, capabilities, all the way from benchtop through large scale manufacturing columns and things like that. And so this brings me back quite a ways in my overall experience with life sciences. And I don't get to talk to that many people that are sort of on the development side. And so it'd be great to have a very good conversation with you about your experience and the things that you've done in life sciences.
Yeah, absolutely.
So can you tell listeners just a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. So on the technical side, I am VP of Pharmaceutical Development and Quality at Caliber, which is a subsidiary of the Scripps Research Institute. I was born in Ukraine, got my technical education in Moscow, Russia, from Institute of Physics and Technology and Shemyakin Institute of Bioorganic Chemistry. And I was lucky enough to be in biotech development, starting from master and Ph.D. thesis, working on first recombinant protein or biologics, insulin, and that was my master and Ph.D. And then I moved as a postdoc to Germany, Berlin, and Düsseldorf universities, and then Biotechnology Research Institute in Montreal, Canada, working in semi-industrial labs to support development of biopharmaceutics. And then I moved to biopharmaceutical industry, working for large pharma companies such as Sanofi, Pfizer, Baxter, and then biotech startups, contract manufacturing companies like Coldstream Labs in Lexington, Kentucky, which became a Piramal, and then Paragon Bioservices, which became Catalent. I consulted on my own, and then one of my clients recommended me to talk to Pete Schultz, at that time CEO of California Institute for Biomedical Research, or abbreviated Caliber, who was looking for experienced pharmaceutical development person to lead the CMC, or chemistry manufacturing control, or drug development and manufacturing at the institute. And on the personal side, I'm an entrepreneurial biopharmaceutical scientist who constantly looking for new challenges in drug development, disregards of geography or economic environment.
Yeah, we talked about this just before, coming into the podcast as well. So you've been at Scripps for about 7 years, is that right?
Yeah. 7 years this month.
Amazing. And as I listened to all of the places that you went in terms of like the key places to touch, I mean, the only like geographies that I didn't hear you mention, right, was Boston in the United States. I mean, that's obviously a big place for us. And then secondly, Switzerland, like Basel, Switzerland, or some place like that as a stop for you. But I mean, certainly in terms of global geographies for life sciences, you touched an awful lot of places.
Yeah, it was a quite interesting journey from Ukraine to Russia to several places in Germany, visited Switzerland several times, then Canada, United States, several states in United States. I traveled a lot to Japan, to China for tech transfer. So a lot of cultures, languages, habits. So it's quite exciting. You know, biopharmaceutical sciences international, and that's a part of the advantage.
Yeah, and I feel like there's also a strong, for Asia anyway, one of the places I know I've spent time before in as well as Singapore because of, just the manufacturing facilities that are there for like Lonza and places like that. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely very fast developing biopharmaceutical hub. Singapore, Shanghai, other places in Asia.
Yeah, for sure. So can you tell us more specifically about your role and responsibilities you currently have at Scripps? What is it that you do on a daily basis?
Yeah, sure. So probably a little bit history of Caliber. So Caliber, or former California Institute for Biomedical Research, is a translational research institution founded by Pete Schultz about 10 years ago. And translational meaning we bring molecules from bench to clinic, to from research to clinical studies. And we have a wide portfolio of drug candidates, such as traditional small molecules, nucleosides, conjugated peptides, fusion proteins, several types of monoclonal antibodies, viral vectors, and now CAR T cell therapy. Several products are already in clinical trials. So basically, when I joined the Institute 7 years ago, we started from scratch in terms of process development and GMP manufacturing. And with that, Institute developed partnerships with nonprofit organizations such as Bill Melinda Gates Foundation, Wellcome Trust, California Institute for Regenerative Medicine, uh, and also partnerships with several um, large companies such as Pfizer, BMS, Merck, and currently we are in active collaboration with FDA. And so several years ago, Pete Schultz was elected as a CEO of the Scripps Research and decided to merge two institutions together to bring translational function of caliber into the great academic institution, the Scripps Research Institute. And also we get access to the great minds of the Scripps, commercializing their ideas. And my function at Caliber is to implement the great ideas of scientists into real pharmaceutical drug product to help patients to fight severe diseases, cancer, autoimmune diseases, arthritis, and we have excellent research and development labs, but don't have the process development and manufacturing capabilities. And it's done on purpose because with a wide portfolio, we need to build several facilities and they will not be utilized all the time. So we decided to outsource all drug development to contract manufacturing and develop contract development and manufacturing organizations, or CDMOs. And basically, my role is to work closely with research teams of our institute and communicate with CDMOs on technology transfer, analytical and process development, setting up specifications, resolving the process and product related issues to make sure that our drug candidates are safe and efficacious.
Yeah, it's big job description, and I'm sure not an easy one either. Going from a research lab to any CDMO, I would imagine would be an adventure, as you go through that transfer process as well.
Yes, yes. And you know, some of our products are quite complex, so they cannot be done at the same CDMO. So we need to involve several of them into the same product and interconnect the deliverables.
Yeah. So there are a lot of people that I would imagine could listen to this episode that wouldn't understand, what it really takes to go from discovery to commercial manufacturing. But could you sort of, break down what does that look like? What does the process look like as you're going from, essentially the lab that you're in at Scripps to a CDMO? What does that process look like?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm involved in early research discussion of our projects with caliber scientists working on so-called developability programs, identifying the leading drug candidates, transferring technologies to CDMOs and working with their teams and delivering the bulk drug substance and final drug product to be distributed in clinical sites in proper manner. And it involves a lot of activities, basically analysis of existing data, discussion with CDMOs about true capabilities of their organizations, identifying what can be done at one or another CDMO, and what kind of outputs we expect from them. And some products are quite complex. So, like to give you an example, we work on chimeric antigen receptor T cell or CAR T cell, and supply chain of this product involves 5 CDMOs. Some of them are located in United States, Europe, India, and China. And on the top, we developed a cold chain delivery of the product from final CDMO to hospitals. We constantly work on process improvements, uh, work on stability, comparability, compatibility, uh, transportation studies, and at any given time, we work with 10 different CDMOs located in different parts of the world. So it's quite challenging, but very interesting.
So the interesting thing that came to mind to me there, and maybe this is a connection that if you're interested in it that I could make later, but so Gary McCausland has been on this show before. He's the CEO of, and I'm going to forget the name of the company, but he has a CDMO essentially that's located in Ireland, I believe, and they've built like a mobile manufacturing plant that sits outside of the hospital where they can scale up, essentially these CAR T cell therapies. They can manufacture them right next to the hospital as well.
Yeah, it's a quite interesting trend because it eliminates a lot of logistical issues, and also they can get CAR T cells and apply them directly to patient without freezing of final drug product, and it increases the potency of CAR T cells or cell therapy products in general, and simplifies logistics tremendously. There are several companies which are working on technical part of this built up. Lonza with Cocoon is one of the leading models, and yes, it's a new trend which hopefully will simplify the process and reduce the manufacturing cost of CAR T cells.
Yeah, it's ACGT vector. I remembered after you started talking, it gave my brain a minute for that one brain cell to fire for me. So I got a break. So with your work previously at places like Catalent and Pfizer and all these other, larger scale companies, how is working for Scripps or Caliber the same or different?
It's quite different. And talking about Catalan, so I started my work there at one company called Paragon Bioservices, and it was early stage CDMO. We just moved from university basement to a beautiful building in Baltimore downtown. and later on it was acquired by Catalent. But my role was on improvement of the process development function from small R&D group to the full-scale department, and it included hiring scientists. So like I started with 15 and hired another 25 people. Evaluation of new technologies, setting up extra labs, attracting new clients, and increasing the company budget. It was challenging, but very useful experience to look at the CDMO from inside and identify positive and promising parts of CDMOs, as well as to see the potential challenges. And CDMO business is quite challenging. So some common mistake at young CDMOs could be a lack of proper quality system, low efforts on analytical development. Another mistake could be the company location. If it's far away from the major transportation hubs, it's difficult to attract clients and hire personnel. Another extreme could be put CDMO in fancy, expensive building and spend too much money on real estate property itself instead of drug development. So it was, as I say, it was challenging, but it gave me a very good perspective. So what is a CDMO business? So when I visit and audit CDMOs these days, I know exactly what are the pain points and what kind of questions to ask.
Yeah. Yeah. The interesting part about that is, I mean, you think about from a CDMO perspective, just having the equipment available and having to sort of synchronize all these components and get them in together, along with all the things that they have to, work through to be able to develop for multiple companies. I mean, just seems like an interesting problem to always sort of have to sort out. Oftentimes I find myself doing an awful lot of project management, in general, for a lot of different companies. And one of the key problems that comes to mind for me is just it would be a big challenge for any program manager to look across the portfolio and say, we have 10 drugs coming in to be manufactured. How do all of those pieces fit together so that, essentially the equipment's available and everything's ready to go?
Yeah, and in terms of CDMO, it should be you can acquire all types of modern equipment, but there is a return on investment, and you should calculate carefully when this piece of equipment becomes profitable. And what makes better sense to purchase new equipment or older one, but then to rent an equipment so it's quite interesting to look at the budget of a department or company and calculate what is more profitable and useful for your organization.
Yeah. Yeah, there are quite a few companies, actually, I know not too far from you, that I've seen in the past that were dealing with that very problem. Do we buy, do we rent, or do we have to outsource to be able to get things accomplished? So
yeah, and talking about Pfizer or Wyeth Biopharma, so I joined Wyeth Biopharma like many years ago, and I should admit it was my best experience in terms of technical and quality standpoint. And the standards for technical operations, experimental design, analytical process development, manufacturing, and quality system were set up at high level at Wyeth. And actually, Pfizer has acquired Wyeth Biopharma because of its great experience in biologics development, innovative technologies, and modern manufacturing facilities, particularly at the facilities located in Andover, Massachusetts. And the formulation group where I used to work was, and I believe still is, one of the best in biopharmaceutical industry. So when Caliber sets up collaborations or partnership with large pharma companies, including Pfizer, it provides a clear expectation for the high level of technical outputs that our team should provide for the successful project implementation. And looking back at my professional career, I can say that I used to work at all types of all possible types of biopharmaceutical business entities, including universities, scientific institutes, big pharma companies, biotech startups, contract manufacturing organizations, consulting companies, and now I work for one of the best, if not the best, nonprofit research and educational institution. And I would say that my previous experience provided me a very good technical and business background for understanding of all different biopharmaceutical business modalities and ability to discuss technical problems with scientists and resolve business issues directly with executives. So it's a very good experience, and I'm glad that I was able to implement all my knowledge, previous knowledge at the caliber.
Yeah, it's important, absolutely important. So, in your role today, what are some of the biggest challenges that you face?
Um, well, I would call them not the biggest challenges, but probably interesting intellectual challenges. None of our drug candidates is simple,
Mm,
and some of them require development of different components at several CDMOs located in different parts of the world. And it requires not only technical knowledge, such as understanding of processes, manufacturing batch record specifications, and issuing certificates of analysis, but also the understanding of different cultures and traditions, if not languages. And besides the technical challenges for each component, the supply chain of intermediate parts and final product could be very challenging. And the supply chain may include not only the knowledge of logistics, but also custom documents, taxation rules, insurance, cold chain principle, or communication with airport security in case the package delayed to the patient in critical conditions. And I remember quite interesting story when our CAR T cells were not delivered on time, and the time is ticking, and we need to deliver the package within the next several hours. So I was talking to airport security personnel, explaining that, guys, the life of real person is in your hand, and it's about your decision how fast you can release this package because a patient is waiting. And I believe it gave a kind of feeling to the clerk who sits at the airport that he is responsible for life of real person, and the package was released, delivered at the hospital. And so it's you need to bring people on your side, even people who are not related to biomanufacturing development, but to make sure that patient gets the innovative product on time and the life is saved.
Yeah, it's amazing to see, like, sometimes you see like the van waiting to go to the airport, so that's waiting to collect that, the life-saving drug or whatever it is. Then, they transport it quickly to the airport via oftentimes via courier, and then, from there onto an airplane out, and then, again, could be back to another courier to get it, to the hospital. It just, I mean, it is amazing. And that's, without any sort of international boundaries. I mean, at one point, I had conversations with other people about CAR T cell therapies where they were talking about having to transport the drug, across an international border, which I would imagine is a whole nother level of concerning things that you're having to do.
Right. And in the time of pandemic, it was actually very difficult to transfer drugs through the border because as soon as you say it's biologics or biological product, it brings a wave of resistance. Like, what do you mean exactly? Is it virus? Is it protein? How do you explain in simple language that no, it's a drug which needs to be administered to patient?
Right. Yeah. So where do you see the biggest opportunities in your current role then?
So the biggest opportunity is to work on challenging biopharmaceutical problems and develop portfolio of new drugs or drug device combination which will uh, beneficial for patients. And as I mentioned before, there are no low-hanging fruits in our portfolio. Each product is complicated, but each of them belongs to so-called unmet clinical needs. So people really need it, and that's the biggest opportunity for us to develop innovative drugs and to transfer them to patients.
Yeah, absolutely. So there are three questions that I like to ask every guest. What inspires you?
Inspiration, probably to be on the front line of drug development and working on multiple projects, ranging from small molecules to protein cellular therapy. I enjoy the constant learning process at Caliber and growing pipeline of our projects. Um, the fact that Caliber develops new types of drugs for unmet clinical needs. Our technical resources are limited compared to large pharma companies, yet the quality of our scientists and their intellectual capabilities are outstanding. And that provides a competitive advantage. So I enjoy working for Caliber and contribute to our portfolio of innovative products.
Yeah, definitely. And what concerns you?
One of concern is a growing cost of drug development in the
Mm,
current economy. And the manufacturing processes are heavily dependent on human presence and control. The level of automation and in-process control in current biopharmaceutical processes is quite low, and we are far behind of other industries like semiconductors or even automobile industry in this regard. And so biopharmaceutical industry is very conservative and overregulated. That increase further drug development cost, and this issue should be resolved. And I see a great opportunity here for further development in automation and applicability of artificial intelligence for manufacturing, biopharmaceutical manufacturing process.
yeah, I definitely have a big interest to see, the impact that artificial intelligence will have in our industry as well. I think that your comments regarding the conservative nature, that comes along with a very, sort of heavily regulated industry, definitely is something that is a challenge for, any company that's developing, drugs and trying to get them safely to market as well, and in the U.S. especially.
Yeah, absolutely.
What excites you?
I think the innovative development of new technologies in biopharmaceutical industry, such as mRNA technologies, after success of vaccines developed by Pfizer, BioNTech, and Moderna. And interesting enough, the final drug product is extremely potent and can be manufactured very fast. And the manufacturing scale can be decreased 10, 100, or 1,000 times. So instead of large bioreactors, like 2,000-liter bioreactor used for regular protein manufacturing for phase one, it can be done in just a couple of liters. So that's
Mm,
a new technology, very promising technology. Then new viral vectors and cell therapy technologies, which are still expensive, but they can be very efficacious, particularly when applied to the patients with a late stage of cancer or other serious diseases. And new drug delivery system and drug device combination designed for targeted delivery or drugs to avoid serious side effects. So I think new technologies in biopharmaceutical industry is a very exciting part of my work.
yeah, I definitely concur I mean, just seeing what's coming along in terms of different cancer therapies is amazing. Being able to, just treat people that, once were not treatable, just to me seems also amazing. But then lastly, just the scientific knowledge that it must have taken to be able to deliver those things is just, also, just something that's admirable in our field. So I definitely, can appreciate what excites you as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Vadim, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for telling everybody about Caliber and the work that you're doing inside of life sciences. I greatly appreciate you being a guest on Life Science Success.
Oh, thank you very much, Don. I appreciate your invitation, and yeah, I'm very glad to share my experience with your listeners.
Perfect. Thank you.